Jason in Canton, Georgia. Hey, Jason, you're on with Tracie and John.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
Pardon me if I'm just a little bit starstruck. I really appreciate all you guys have done. And I have a question actually about abortion. I am an atheist, but I wanted to give maybe just 30, 40 seconds of background if I can,
Sure.
to kind of give an idea of where I'm coming from.
Okay.
I was pretty hardcore fundamentalist. I, from about the age of 11, was really in deep. And by 16, I had preached a couple sermons at a couple church congregations in our local group and was the worship leader. And I was really in deep. And eventually, I got a little more distanced from church with the stuff going on in my life. And about a year ago, I was watching, I was taught Bill Nye was this evil guy because he believed in evolution and everything. So I was watching for whatever reason, I can't remember why I happened to stumble over this video, but the video where Bill Nye was walking through the Ark encounter with, can't remember his name right now.
That's okay.
But the guy with the Ark.
Kent Hovind.
Not Kent Hovind.
And Ham?
Ham.
Ken Ham.
That's it.
Okay.
Yes, it's Ken Ham. And that was the video I was watching when I said, oh, my God, I think I'm an atheist. And I remember walking in, talking to my wife in the kitchen, saying, oh, my God, I think I'm an atheist. And she's like, what? And thankfully, everything has been overall pretty positive. But I will say I am suffering some PTSD and some trouble from my religious upbringing, the thought of heaven being this wonderful experience. And I realize that I was 36 at the time last year and realized now this is all I have for sure I can count on. So it's kind of been a struggle, and overall it's been great. And I just wanted to also express appreciation, Tracie, for you, because one of the things you said really made a lot of things easier for me when I was struggling with giving up my belief. And that was when you were talking about how people, if God knew that all the parameters and who would go to heaven and hell, kind of like what you were talking about earlier, then, he knows what would happen. And that just kind of blew my mind when I heard that. And I said, oh, my God, yes, I definitely am an atheist now.
Yeah, it's a tough point. It's a tough point for people to get. It's a real sticking point for Christians, and I think a big part of that is that they hear so often the counter apologetic to it that when they hear that rebuttal, all they hear is that counter apologetic they've been taught, and they don't really hear what you're saying. So it takes a long time, if at all, that you can get a person to hear what you're actually describing when it comes to that. Sorry, that was just an aside.
So I appreciate that very much. And you and all of you guys, John, you've been awesome. Everybody there, I appreciate, because you guys are making a real difference to people like me who are struggling hard in this journey from theism to atheism.
Thank you.
And I really appreciate what you're doing. You're making a huge difference.
Okay.
My struggle right now is with abortion because, I have some very heavily religious people in my family. And people that are very, very anti-abortion. I mean, to the point of being, activist about it.
Sure.
And this is a challenging area for me because I used to be very pro-life or, anti-abortion and everything. And I understand that this is probably a struggle for a lot of ex-Christians or people that have come into, I don't think it's probably so much for Islam because of the whole belief with the soul and everything. But for me, it's been challenging because in the Christian faith, we were looking at everybody as having this mystical or magical kind of soul, kind of intrinsic value.
Sure.
That and I'm struggling because I don't know how to communicate my beliefs to other people well, because when it comes to I'm having a hard time because after becoming an atheist, I'm kind of seeing now that we are not, we don't have this magical intrinsic value. It's more of the value we put on it.
Sure.
And that's really challenging to explain to people. And I've listened to like episodes, I've binge watched Atheist Experience like crazy lately in the past year. But I've watched many episodes, like, for example, where Matt and Jim were talking to people about abortion. And when Matt says, and I respect Matt to death, I mean, he's helped me a lot with his stuff. But one of the things I struggle with is when he says, you know, the abortion is the termination of the pregnancy, and he keeps repeating it's the termination of the pregnancy. I get what he's saying, but it feels kind of like it's a dodge on what the person's actually dealing with this intrinsic value of life. I hope that this question makes sense.
I think I hear what you're saying, and I'd like to offer something. And if it's not, if I've misunderstood you, you feel free to correct me. But I actually think that it's a dodge when people say that it's not about a termination of a pregnancy, right? Because it is. If we could terminate that pregnancy and without killing the child, and we decided to do that as a society, I don't think anybody would have a problem with it. So, for example, you know, the person with the uterus is just saying, I don't want this pregnancy. I don't want this. And if they can abort the pregnancy and then sign over adoption rights to someone else, I'm pretty sure they would be totally willing to do so. I mean, I can't really speak for everyone, but the whole the reason that a woman is going and having an abortion is she's ending this pregnancy.
Yeah.
What happens to, I don't think that she goes in and says, today I get to kill a baby.
And this needs,
right? She's saying,
to
I don't
want
want the child. I don't want the pregnancy. I don't want it. She just simply does not want this in her life for whatever reason. Or, you know, and I'm assuming here that we're not talking about people that, of course, are having the procedure because of problems with the fetus and, you know, whatnot. You're talking about people that do this as an option, right? I mean, I think that's fair.
Yeah, and I think the thing about it is that having come from such a hardcore pro-life view before that I've had for decades, it's like I see the struggle because people see the life of I see the struggle. I don't know how to even say what I'm saying.
Right, but what I'm saying, though, is that the locus should be honest. And the locus for most of these women who are making this option is, I don't want to proceed with this pregnancy. I do not want to be a parent. Either I can't afford it, I can't deal with it, I can't have this happening to my body, I don't, you know, this isn't something that I'm going to consent to.
I think that the thing is this mystical, magical value, intrinsic value to life that people put.
Right. Okay, but here's the thing: all these people, just like I don't know if you heard the conversation earlier, but all of these people that are saying, "Oh, every life is sacred, and you should have to donate your body to to bring somebody else to viability, and you should not have any choice in that matter, and your consent should not matter." And then the moment that child is born, and you ask them, then if it needed a pint of blood from the biological father, should they be compelled to donate? Oh, no, we can't do that. But she can put her life health at risk, do 9 months of, have her body, a human being literally growing in her body for 9 months that she has not consented to. And they're saying that's, and they're saying that this is perfectly fine. No, but what I'm pointing out is what happens to the intrinsic value, that magical value of that child, the moment that it's born, that makes it now no longer something that should be able to command that kind of control of the biological parents.
I could tell you only what I would have said as a pro-life person before.
Okay,
I would have
that's
said
fair.
That is because I would have said it's because the baby didn't choose that's what they were going to do. And I say baby liberally.
What does that have to do with compelling the biological father to donate blood? Or tissue. Let's say tissue, because that you need better matches for tissue in some cases.
What they're saying is
there's really no difference, and I totally understand your point.
Right.
I get it.
So if the child is just as valuable the minute after it's born, Why do the people that are pro-life not say that biological parents should be compelled to donate whatever parts or of blood or tissue that is required to make sure that that child remains viable? Why are they not pushing for that? Why does the child's welfare and capacity to live based on infringing on the bodies of others suddenly stop the moment the child is born? If it's about the inherent value of the child, has it become less valuable because it was born now?
Yeah, and honestly, that call that you had earlier, it kind of made a lot of sense to me, and I think that did help. The idea that using the woman's body is something that is maybe an unnecessary or unwarranted demand on her.
They're saying that bodily autonomy doesn't matter, isn't important for the pregnant woman, but it is for everybody else.
Right. Only people with a uterus should not have bodily autonomy. Everyone else gets full bodily autonomy, can deny their children blood, tissue in every way, even if it costs the child their life, even if the child is born due to a defect that the parents knew was highly likely based on genetic screening of the parents. I mean, you can put all kinds of layers on this to say, it doesn't matter. It's like I could know that there's like a super high likelihood that I will have a child and that will be birthed non-viable, that will require blood and tissue, and still I won't be required to donate it. That child can die, and it's just considered an unfortunate act of nature.
Okay. I think I see what...
We talk a lot about this on Godless Bitches, or what is now GB 2.0, the reboot. So if you want to look up that podcast, it has a lot of conversation about this. So if you're just looking to hear perspectives and something that may or may not resonate with you or something you may object to, I'm not telling you what to think about it, but it's definitely a show that talks about it more often.
I gotcha. And I guess this is the last question, and this is kind of my way of summing it up, I guess, in when I'm trying to wrestle through these issues. Do you think that then the core issue is whether or not the, for the lack of a better term, the fetus has rights to life or not, basically? I mean, is that really what the core of the debate is? Because that's what it seems like to me.
I think the core is, does the fetus have the right to use somebody else's body without their consent?
Right. In ways that no other human being can avail themselves of.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because I don't think that if a person, would you say that if a fetus has a right to life, that I should have a similar right to life as a person who's not a fetus?
Well, for me, it's the struggle of, did someone choose to be there demanding?
Right, but I didn't choose to be here.
Someone's body.
I didn't choose to be here, and I didn't choose to maybe have like a problem with a particular body part that maybe I inherited from my mom in a genetic capacity. I didn't choose that. So if I need her to give me a blood or tissue donation, and she created me like from a biological act, and then she actually chose to keep me, chose to raise me, chose to be parentally obligated to me, right? She consented to all of that. And yet if I need blood or tissue from her or I'm going to die, I can't force her to. I can't get the state to compel her to give it to me, can I?
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, nobody
honestly,
has that.
That does make sense.
Nobody has that capacity. None of us have that right. And none of us asked to be here or asked to have medical problems that we have. You know what I mean? It's like, and again, when I say none of us, maybe some people have, I don't know. But, I think in most cases you get sick and you're not intending to get sick. You have some kind of genetic disorder or you have some problem and, you need help. You need a transfusion. You need something, and sometimes close relatives are all you've got. But we don't compel it. It's still voluntary. It still requires consent.
Yeah.
I think that I honestly think that the advice that both of you guys gave, I think it's been helpful, and I really appreciate it. Again, I almost feel moved to tears to tell you guys how much it's meant to me, everything you guys have done, and It's been so helpful in my life. Thank you.
All right, well, we're glad if we're useful. Thanks very much. Appreciate your call.